Welcome to the Full Nielsen. Today I'm going to be comparing these bipods that I have here on the table, and I will also be talking about some of the other bipods I've owned or have experience with in the past, and tell you what my current recommendation is for the best bipod on the market, at least of all of the ones that I have used to date. I'm going to start off here with this Harris bipod. I'm going to go through the pros of the Harris bipod and then the cons of the Harris bipod. The pros of the Harris bipod are that it is very fast to deploy. Because there is no button or anything, you just grab the legs and pull them back and they deploy very quickly. And also, if you need to add additional height, you press this little button and they're spring loaded, and so you can level these things very quickly. Those are the benefits of the Harris bipod, is the speed of deployment. Also, the weight of the Harris bipod is quite reasonable compared to some of the other bipods on the market, such as Accutech or tax offerings. This Harris bipod setup is the way you see it here, is 13.5 ounces. The cons to the Harris bipod are that you don't have the ability to adjust the legs part of the way out if you want to be in a lower position. You don't have the ability to adjust the legs backwards if you need to set the rifle on something and your bipod is out quite a ways away on the rifle and you've got a short surface to set it on. You might want your rear bag and then your bipod legs to be back further, and they'll still reach all of that same surface. This isn't going to give you the ability to do that because, as you can see, the legs stop here and they can't be rotated backwards in any position to help you in that type of a situation. I don't know that that's a huge deal, but I'm just letting you know that that's one of the drawbacks of this design compared to some of the features I'll show you in some of these other designs. The other con to the Harris bipod, well, there's two more that I'll name. The other one is when these legs are deployed, if you have a heavy rifle and you go to move that rifle into different positions, such as to twist it or to drag it backwards, these legs are going to buckle and collapse on you, which is annoying. I've had that happen to me. Anyway, so that's another con. The last one is that Harris has not kept up with some of the demands of modern shooters. And most of their offerings don't have a QD lever like this to attach directly to a Picatinny rail or Arca Swiss mounting systems or clamps. They're still predominantly making bipods that just attach to a regular standard sling swivel. Most modern rifles are starting to steer away from that, and they're going to M-lock attachment or as I mentioned, Picatinny or Arca Swiss. And if that's their niche and they're only making them for hunting rifles, so be it. But for shooters like me that put Picatinny pieces on pretty much every rifle I own, and I like to just be able to take a QD set, a QD lever, Picatinny attachment system like this, and move it from rifle to rifle very quickly, that's kind of an oversight in my opinion. And like I said, I think some of these competitive offerings that are coming out are eventually going to drown Harris out of the market because they just haven't seemed to stay kept up with modern times. So those are the pros and the cons the way I see them as it pertains to the Harris bipod. Next bipod I've got here is the Magpul bipod. This particular model is the one that has aluminum inner legs and Palmer outer legs. I believe they make a model that has Palmer inner legs and Palmer outer legs. Anyway, so that's what this model is, and it has the ability to directly connect to M-lock. That's a wonderful feature if you're going to put this on an AR-15 with an M-lock handguard, or many rifles have M-lock forends, and you're just going to leave it on that one rifle. That's great. The downside of it is you have to have a tool, an Allen key, to remove it, and if you want to move it quickly from rifle to rifle, or if you're in the field and you want to throw it in your backpack and not have the extra weight on the front of your gun unless you need it and you have the opportunity to use the bipod and then you'll get it out, hook it up to your rifle and use it, that's not going to be a quick and easy process with this the way these quick detach levers are. And I don't know that Magpul that I'm aware of offers a quick detach option yet. I think they offer a Picatinny attachment setup, and then they offer an M-lock one like this, both of which will require tools. I believe one's a clamp and then there's this here. Anyway, so that's one of the cons that I see with Magpul's current offerings. Pros of this design, You don't need a piece of Picatinny and then a clamp to the Picatinny. If you have M-LOK, it's just a direct attached to M-LOK, so you're skipping additional parts or points of failure, depending on how you look at it. That's a pro. The other pro is very rapid deployment. You just pull these legs out, just like what you saw with the Harris. One of the pros this has over the Harris is when the legs are deployed, if you go to drag this bipod forward or backward or twist it side to side, once it's locked, these legs are not going to collapse on you. You have to press these buttons to release those legs. And so moving from position to position, if you're dragging the rifle or you need to change the angle of the rifle, you're not going to have an issue with this collapsing on you the way that you are the Harris bipod. So that's one of the pros of it. Another one of the pros that I like with this bipod is you may or may not be able to see, but here there's a thing that says pan and there's one that says lock. I do not like panning features on my bipods, but some people do, and there are certain use cases where it's nice to have a panning feature. If you loosen this up and you rotate this, you can change this, I'll show you here, over to the pan feature. Then you tighten this tension wheel back down, which is for your cant. And this bipod also has a cant tension adjustment. I didn't really show that, so let me show that to you real quick. That's just right here in the head, and that's a necessity on a bipod because you end up on unlevel terrain. You don't want one that does not have the ability to adjust for cant. The way you snug this one down is you just take this little adjustment here, snug that up, and then it will hold its adjustment depending on how tight you want it. So it's a lever. This one's a little wheel to adjust the tension. Now, the pan feature I was talking about. What that means is when this bipod is deployed, and you've got your rifle sitting on it, you can adjust that rifle independent of the legs being drug around. Some people really like that, and it has its use. If you were shoving this bipod against a barricade, or if you're on a surface where you can't square the rifle up to the target, then you could still put the legs on there and still adjust the rifle to be on target. Those are the use cases where that feature, that panning feature, may come in handy. I have never found those cases with the way that I use bipods, but I'm not a competition shooter. I use them hunting and I use them for long-range precision shooting, and that's it. But I'm not competing in matches or any of that stuff. Maybe there would be more of a use for those features in other situations. I don't like that feature. And I like the fact that Magpul has come up with a design where you can lock it so you aren't using that. That's the way I prefer it. I like to be squared up to my target when I preload the bipod. I find I shoot more consistent that way, and I can control the recoil better that way than when it's all cockeyed and the recoil's trying to come this way through the legs instead of square with the legs. So anyway, I like that Magpul offers both. So that's one of the pros of this. And really for the $100 or so price point, $50 to $100, depending on if it's the Palmer or aluminum or whatever model, pretty awesome offering from Magpul. I will say that I don't think it is quite as solid or as steady as some of these other offerings. It just, I don't know how to explain it, but it just feels a little more rickety, like there's more play in the legs, more play in whatever, and I usually like a little bit of play in the legs, like with some of these Atlases, but this isn't the good kind of play. I don't know how to explain it. It's not the play that just tracks perfectly straight forward or backwards. As you can see, I can kind of rotate that leg on that little thing. I don't know. It just doesn't feel quite as solid as some of the other ones. But for the price point, there's really nothing else that competes with it, and giving the feature differences between these two, that this one actually locks in the out position, I don't know. I would say this is probably a more solid, more proven, more robust piece of gear. This has been around since the dawn of time, it seems like. They were one of the only competitors 20 years ago, or the only person making a quality bipod. This has enough plastic on it that I would not trust this to be as robust as the Harris. But as far as the feature set, I actually think it has better features than what the Harris has. So that's my 2 cents about that. I have heard that UTG makes some bipods that have similar features to this, but they're all aluminum, and some guys say that they think they're better than these, and I think they're pretty much around the same price point. I'm going to move on to this Atlas bipod. It's the Atlas V8. It does not have the quick detach lever. I strongly recommend you spend the extra money for a quick detach lever on whatever bipod you get, so that you can take it off the rifle in the field depending on how you're going to use the rifle. I prefer that because you can buy one bipod and move it to many rifles very quickly once you set them up with a little piece of Picatinny rail, as opposed to having to have a flathead screwdriver and tighten this on and off of everything, and that makes it really not a viable option to quickly remove it in the field or to quickly move it from rifle to rifle. So I'm not a fan of this. I know it saves a little bit of money. Save the extra money until you can afford the quick detach levers that you see on some of these options. Now, the things I like about the Atlas, I like that it can be deployed in a variety of positions. Instead of being all the way out or all the way in, it can be deployed in any of these positions you see here, even backwards. Some of you might wonder where that would have any use. Well, if you have a short area to rest your rifle on, instead of having your legs here, you can actually put your legs back on, say, on the top of a barrel and maybe still get a rear bag under your rifle and use your rifle in an awkward position like that. Or if you're on really bizarre terrain and you need to move your legs into a variety of different positions, this is great for that. Build quality on these is top notch. They're super smooth. Those are some of the things I like about them. In terms of weight, I mentioned the Harris is 13.5 ounces. The Magpul is 11 ounces. This Atlas V8 is 11 ounces. And this Atlas Cal bipod, I give you the specific model number later, is 14.5 ounces. So nice and lightweight. Build quality is great. These are really proven as well, along with the Harris. In terms of worrying about it breaking or something like that, I think this is a lot less prone to having any problem that way than what you're going to see with the Magpul. Now, as far as things I don't like with this, there's quite a few. I'll start off with the speed of deployment. It is not as fast to deploy as these other two bipods. That's not a huge deal to me. I know it's a huge deal to some people out there. But for me, usually when I'm using a bipod, it usually means that I have time to use a bipod. If I don't have time to use a bipod, then I'm just going to be either freehanding the rifle, setting it on a bag, whatever the fastest, most expedient thing is. Usually when I'm going to a bipod, it's because, there's an animal out there, it doesn't know I'm there, I've got plenty of time to set up, and so then I'll use my bipod, and the speed of deployment of legs isn't as big a deal in that situation. There's one other thing I was going to mention about this Harris when it came to, this Magpul. When it comes to deploying these legs, one other feature I like better than the Harris is because the button is on the portion of the leg that slides up and down, you can be holding your rifle with one hand with the bipod mounted and reach out and rock that bipod and extend this, rock it the other way, and extend it one-handed. You can't do this one-handed other than the initial leveling you could do one-handed. But now if I need to make a fine adjustment to this, I guess I can still do it one-handed. Never mind. I was thinking of having to manually push the leg up and down, but if you actually raise or lift the rifle, you could drag this leg up or down the way you're seeing me do it. So never mind. Now I'm going to talk about this. I mentioned some of the things I like about the Atlas. I'm going to get into the things I don't like about the Atlas. One of the things I really dislike on this Atlas bipod is this little adjustment wheel on the bottom. I don't like the tensioning wheel as much as I like this lever lock. Same thing with the Magpul. I don't like that tension wheel as much as I like that adjustment system. I don't like that the Atlas V8 or PSR have a pan feature and there's no way to lock that out and just use it without it or any of that. I hate that pan feature. I know some people like it. I hate it. And this tension wheel adjusts both the pan and the cant tension. The other thing I don't like is if you're moving your rifle around with this and you twist that rifle and the pan feature moves around, it loosens your tension knob. Silly. I also don't like the rotating legs, which Atlas makes models like the PSR and this Cal bipod that don't have rotating legs. I think that's a big improvement. So those are some of the things I don't like about the Atlas. Things I do like: the weight, the build quality, the overall adjustability. Okay, anyway, let's move on to the one I like the best, and this is my recommendation as the best bipod I think available for the money. I know there's the Accutac SR5, which I owned. I didn't like it because of the weight and because of the way that the legs deploy. Instead of a push button like this, or instead of just grabbing the legs and pulling them back, you have to pull the legs down and overcome some spring tension and rotate them into position. And I personally felt like that worked great. If you were standing up and you grab the legs and then jump down on the rifle after you've deployed the legs, that type of application, it's fine. But if you're already on the ground and you're trying to drag those legs out to adjust to positions, it's a lot more of a pain in the neck than it is the Atlas, where you just push these buttons and it very smoothly goes into whatever position you want. So I don't own that bipod anymore because of those drawbacks, because of the weight of it, and I did not care for the way that you have those legs deploy. So anyway, now what I like about this cow bipod, it really puts together almost all of the best features of most of these bipods we've seen. The one drawback to it is speed of deployment is still the same as all of the other Atlas bipods, which is you've got to press the button and, you know, to each notch, so it's not super fast. But in terms of stability, it's wider than these other bipods. The stance of the bipod's wider, which lends itself to better stability. It has the lever lock on the back, which I really like, and a very smooth cant, smoother than any of these other bipods by far, and it has more cant built in than this older design or this other design on this V8 that I don't care for. And there's no pan feature on this bipod. So you square up to the target, you load your bipod. If you want to move the thing around, you drag the leg square to your target, load up, and fire. So I like this way better than this other Atlas design. So the model of this bipod is the Atlas Cal BT65-LW17 Gen 2. Quite a mouthful. This is my favorite one of the bunch. It is also, by a little bit, the heaviest one of the bunch. Instead of 11 ounces like these two, or 13.5 ounces like this, it's 14 ounces. So you're going to be carrying around a little bit more, but this is my favorite one to date. So if you guys found any of this information helpful, or you have your favorite bipod and you'd like to share what that is and why that's your favorite with the community, feel free to leave that in the comments section below. If this was at all informative, please like and subscribe and share the video. That incentivizes us to make more content. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day.